What is up, Breakthrough Success listeners? Marc, the podcasting coach here, and we all have to keep on grinding to achieve our goals. We know this, but how do we put in the behind-the-scenes work before all the attention comes? That is what we're going to talk about in this episode. We are joined by a guest who is a Northwestern and Kellogg School of Management graduate, startup founder, two-time TEDx speaker, and #1 best-selling author. His upcoming book, The Journey to Cloud9, provides a new approach to the personal development world by using fictional storytelling to reveal some of life's most meaningful principles. Our guest who joins us for this episode of Breakthrough Success is none other than Jordan Gross. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, Mark? Thank you for that amazing intro. Got a lot of energy here tonight and just excited to chat with you about work ethic. We were just chatting about that before, and I think you're somebody who is definitely on the same page as I am with just you're going to get out what you put in, right? So it's all about how much more you're willing to do. So just excited to share some stories, some tricks, some tips related to what goes on behind the scenes, because it's not all, shiny at the end of the day. There's a lot of work that goes on that people don't see, and I think it's super important to share that.
And I mean, work ethic is this thing that you do hear about a lot, but just being able to hit on those behind the scene things, I think it's harder for people to maintain good work ethic when they feel like they're putting in the work, but they're not seeing the results. So how can we stay strong with the work ethic, even if the results aren't coming right away?
Yeah. Oh, that's an amazing question. Great place to start. My simple first gut response is just one of the most important characteristics to have in the personal development world, or really in any world where you're creating something for yourself, is patience and understanding that it's not going to be an overnight sensation. Even the overnight sensations put in years of work to get to their talent or wherever they are. That's like the very high level answer. But then a story I have related to this was I actually asked that same exact question to one of my mentors. And his name is Jeff Hoffman. He's the founder of Priceline.com. And I said, Jeff, I'm having a lot of problems staying disciplined because, I'm doing all this work. I'm doing things every single day that I don't think anybody else is doing, but even I'm not where I want to be. And I just want to be, at the peak of success in this world, but I'm not there yet. So what am I supposed to do? And he said to me, this is where reverse engineering your plan comes into play and is so important. So what that means is, he said, Jordan, project yourself reaching your goal, right? And my goal is to be a New York Times bestselling author by the age of 30, right? So he said, okay, there you are at age 30, right? What'd you do when you were 29? Well, you're an author, so you have to have written a book, right? So maybe your book comes out when you're 29. And what'd you have to do when you were 28? Well, when you were 28, maybe you had to go on podcasts and you had to, get your writing out there. So you had to have a blog, right? And you had to build up a following, right? And to be a New York Times bestseller, you have to hit 10,000 copies, right? So you obviously have to have an audience of 10,000 people. And he said, and what happens when you're 27? Well, when you're 27, maybe you're just starting to get more well-known on LinkedIn or Medium or whatever it is, right? And little by little, he worked back to where I am now at age 25, and we worked back together. And then now, you look at where you are and you have this reverse engineered plan, but since you're starting today, you have the plan to get to age 30, and you just have to know that if you're following that plan, then you're probably on the right track. You're probably doing something right. And obviously, it's super important to adjust and reflect on how the plan is going as you go along. But just having that plan in mind, knowing that there is something at the end of the tunnel, right? But also enjoying the journey every step of the way. That's my thing, is always just being present in the moment and enjoying it. And just knowing that the work that you put in is truly meaningful, especially if it's work that you love, like we're doing.
And this idea of reverse engineering, because it's one thing to say, I want to have this big goal, and it's, what Jordan's doing is, he's doing a long-term goal. Like, I feel like Bill Gates has this really well-known quote. It's, we overestimate what we could do in a year, but underestimate what we could do in 10 years. So if you think in 10 years, and then you map out, what am I, year 9, year 8, year 7, but then you get to year 1. So at the end of the day, when you do this type of reverse engineering, you still have the, this is what you have to do at year 1, and then just being able to build up to that point. And Jordan mentions, be flexible with the plan, which is something very important. And how do you determine like what kind of adjustments to make to a plan? Like, how do those decisions come into play?
Yeah, so this is where having key indicators, like, we're entrepreneurs, and even though we're solopreneurs, some of us, treating it like a startup is super important sometimes. So key performance indicators, right? And a key performance indicator for me, another example of something that I did recently, was I wanted to go on 90 podcasts in 90 days and do a guest interview on 90 different podcasts in 3 months. So what was my key performance indicator going to be? I wanted to use these podcast interviews to get people to my email list. So what I found out was that even though I got onto these 90 podcasts and I sent people to my email list, I only got a couple of hundred emails after that. So my key performance indicator was not, basically I wasn't getting out what I was putting in, even though I put in so much work to get onto those 90 podcasts, and it was a great experience. At the end of the day, my goal of, thousands of email subscribers wasn't being hit. So after those 3 months, I knew that if I wanted to get more email subscribers, going on podcasts probably wasn't going to be the right thing to do. So I had to change up the strategy. So that's when you have the freedom to do trial and error, experiment, treat yourself like a human guinea pig, and get out there and try new things.
And I do like this idea of trying new things, because there was a point where it's like you and I could both relate to this, like podcasting. Like for a while, I didn't think about podcasting. I just thought about books. I still do books, but there is a lot more time in my life where I was like, let me grow the books, than there was podcasting. So being able to try those new things and experiment. The only thing with that is sometimes you could experiment and then lose the foundation. So how do we continue to experiment, add new things without dropping some of the key foundational pieces and projects we should be working on?
Yeah, another great question, man. I love it. 2 things here. One, my mentality is about learning through every experience, right? And truly, truly, truly immersing yourself in whichever avenue you decide to go in, right? So once I said I'm going to do 90 podcasts in 90 days, like all my focus was, how can I do the 90 podcasts in 90 days? How can I accomplish this big, audacious goal? But I wasn't going to drop everything else, like you said, right? So it's all about moderation at the end of the day. So the way that I scheduled my days were, okay, for maybe 2 or 3 hours, I was going to do podcast outreach, but I still made sure that I had an hour's worth of writing in there. I still made sure I had an hour's worth of going to the gym. I still made sure I had an hour's worth of outreach for, getting reviews on my book, right? So it's just a matter of playing with the ratios, honestly. It's like, you have 5 different things you're going to do in a day. You give 20% to each, then each one's just probably going to go 20%. But if you're experimenting with podcasting, give that 60% and split up the remaining 40% among the 4 other categories. So it's really about ratios and how much power you're going to give to whatever the main focus is at the time, but also not just totally dropping something else.
We've got more great content coming up on this episode, but first we have a message from Side Hustle Mom, which helps all moms out there to develop multiple streams of income through their side hustling efforts. So if you like the idea of generating more income through a variety of side hustles you can do from home, you're definitely going to want to check out sidehustlemom.com. They have a variety of valuable articles, job listings, job boards, insights, and a whole lot more to fuel your side hustling ambition. So go ahead, check them out, sidehustlemom.com, which will be in the show notes. Anyways, let's jump right back into the episode. I mean, this is where you get concepts like Pareto's principle. I mean, Jordan was mentioning ratios, where you do want to try new things, but make that a fixed percentage of your work activities. Because without that kind of structure, the new things can really take up all of your time, and you're forgetting about the things that are working, that are giving you results. And it's very important to stay on track with that vision. Jordan has a clear idea, New York Times best-selling author before turning 30, and all the different things he has to do to get there. Now, part of behind the scenes work is having that community around you, and some people supporting you, some people not. Like, how do you continue to put in the behind the scenes work in relation to the people you surround yourself with? Like, have you cut out people, put yourself in front of new people? Like, how does the whole community thing work for you behind the scenes?
Yeah, so I think it works pretty similar to other components, right? And I didn't mention this yet, but you may have even mentioned this in past episodes, but there's a concept that I try to adhere to every single day. And it's I think it was the 2000 Great Britain rowing team. Have you ever heard this story?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so they really wanted to win a gold medal. It was about time that they won a gold medal. And a couple months before they started training, they said, how are we going to win this gold medal? And they decided to come up with a very simple phrase: will this make the boat go faster? So every decision they made for the next 6 months of training, plus their Olympic trials, plus whatever they did at the Olympics, whether it was, are we going to eat a salad or a cookie? Will this make the boat go faster? They asked themselves that question. Are we going to train for an extra hour or get some rest? Will this make the boat go faster? They asked themselves that question. So for me, when you talk about people surrounding me in my life, I ask myself that same question. Is this person going to help me make the boat go faster? Is this person going to help me get to New York Times bestseller by age 30, right? That's my would this make the boat go faster question. So it's simple at the end of the day. If the answer is yes, then that's somebody I keep in my life. If the answer is no, then that's somebody who I maybe have in my life for a different reason, but not, professional related. Because, my personality is I don't ever want to drop people from my life, because I never know what they're going through. And maybe I can be a bit of a, saving grace in their lives just because I don't know their situations. But from a professional standpoint, talking about the behind the scenes work, then yes, it's only going to be people who are going to make my boat go faster, who are going to stay on my team, who I'm going to communicate with daily, weekly, whatever it is.
And I really love that story. One I have not heard of yet, but it's this idea of every single decision matters. Every single person you surround yourself with matters. And that's such a great perspective for being able to strengthen your work ethic and accomplish the different goals you have set for yourself. And it's a great mindset. The only thing is that no matter what kind of mindset you have, you could respond to it differently, but it's not going to shield you from the fact that you are going to have some bad days. So how do you cope with the bad days? Because I know some people, they'll look at a bad day, they'll forget everything they ever accomplished, and then just feel like they haven't done anything. So how do you deal with them?
Yeah, so I have this, my whole concept is about Cloud9 experiences and having these days, moments, lives filled with euphoria, right? So very simply, even during the bad days, I still try to make sure I have one Cloud9 moment, right? So even during a day where I'm lethargic and it doesn't seem like anybody wants to buy the book or put me on their podcast or read my articles, right? I make sure that I get one thing done that I know I can truly be proud of, because that's a Cloud9 moment for me. And sometimes, Mark, honestly, if it's a day where just nothing's going right professionally, then on that bad day, I'll give my grandma a call and just brighten her day, right? Because sometimes in those bad days, for me, I know myself enough to say this: my Cloud9 moments come from helping other people and making them smile, because that lights me up. So it's just always making sure I have those Cloud9 moments, even on the days where it seems like the skies are so cloudy.
I love that. I mean, I feel like a lot of people can really go into just this feeling of despair and like, poor me. But Jordan's really flipping this script by thinking about how can he brighten other people's days. And in turn, that's the type of thing that brightens your day as well and gets you through some of those challenging parts of your journey. And I mean, just being able to respond to challenges, that is something so important for people to do behind the scenes and even when you're in the spotlight.
Yeah. And Mark, this phrase may be a little bit morbid to people, but I actually like thinking about our lives from the perspective of death. And we always say, like, live every day like it's your last, right? But for me, a lot of the time I live every day like it's somebody else's last. So I want to make sure I can brighten their day. I want to make sure I can be helpful. I want to make sure that I'm not just living for me and my last day, but for other people's, possible lasts as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great way to live. I mean, life and death, like people don't think about the death part as much. And it's only when it comes close when you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I got to change. I've been messing it up. I got to pick myself and do the things I was supposed to do all the laters, do all the next times. And I think that's just such a great perspective. I know your show really focuses on Cloud9. We'll throw that link in the show notes. Is there any other places you want us to go to keep following your work and journey?
Follow me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, just Jordan Gross. You could definitely find me on there. And then The Journey to Cloud9 is my book. It's a fictional personal development book about living a life of fulfillment and true meaning. So that's up on Amazon.
Jordan, thank you so much for sharing those resources with us. Links will be in the show notes. It was such a pleasure to have you on Breakthrough Success.
Thanks so much, Mark. Yeah, this was great. This was awesome. Great way to spend the night.